I'm going to pull the mic a little bit closer to you so we make sure that the people on the live stream can hear you. Are you going to be picking?
No singing, just
Could I get you to scoot just a teeny bit over this way?
block myself forever.
Yeah. That way we'll make sure that we get the live stream.
Is it good?
Have a wonderful time.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Society of New Haven. Those of you here in the sanctuary, as well as online via Zoom or YouTube. I'm Rich Stockton, your worship associate today. You can refer to me with the pronouns he and him. I'd like to thank our musical guest, David Shapiro. Thank you for being here. There's more to come. If you're joining us for the first time, we're so glad you chose to spend this time with us. We are a diverse, multi-generational faith community that inspires lives of compassion and generosity, nurtures spiritual growth, cultivates transformative connections, and creates a more just world. We have many principles that guide us, but at this critical election time, two things stand out. This is a congregation that believes in the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. And especially when we talk about immigration, this is a congregation that believes in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. For those of you visiting us for the first time, and those who are relatively new to USNH and who may have questions, we'd love to get to know you. You're welcome to grab a cup of coffee or tea and join members of the Connections team at the visitors table in the far right corner of the social hall after the service. You can also contact us by email at membership@usnh.org, or you can go to our website, usnh.org, and find out more about us. If you're having trouble hearing, our hearing assist devices are available as you come into the sanctuary. If you have to leave the sanctuary for any reason, know that our social hall is wired for sound. Please remember, the Connect Assembly is Monday, October 21st. Connect stands for Congregations Organized for a New Connecticut. USNH has always had a strong presence at these assemblies, and we need more to sign up. See Roy Anastasio. See her in the lobby following the service to get registered. The bereavement group meets today in room 207, that's just up the stairs, from 12:15 to 1:15. Now, UU The Vote has a calling event today at 3 o'clock, that's online, and scripts will be provided. And there'll be a fundraising concert this afternoon for immigration services, and that'll be at 3 o'clock in the sanctuary. And all these events, there's more details in the order of service, or if you just want to remind yourself. So please read those other announcements in the order of service. And finally, make sure you've silenced your electronic devices. Now, after the service, there will be ushers available to receive donations, or you can make an offering by text using the number and instructions found in your order of service, or you can go to our website, usnh.org, donate, or you can mail to our address, 700 Hartford Turnpike in Hamden, Connecticut. We do appreciate your contributions for bread, for friends, for joy and sorrow, for the comfort of quietness. Let us ever be grateful and caring. Your gifts are gratefully received. We are a community that shares its triumphs and its joy and its hard times, knowing that joy shared is magnified and sorrows revealed can be made less onerous, knowing that we are each seen and heard. I have a couple of some sorrows to mention. Kenny Foscue asks us to continue to keep the folks in Western North Carolina in our hearts. And Wendy Laseo, if we could keep her in our hearts as she meets challenges with her health. For all the joys and sorrows, both large and small, both spoken and unspoken, we bear witness. May we open to this moment just as it is. May our hearts be at ease with the conditions of our lives. May we open to the flow of joys and sorrows with understanding and equanimity.
Good morning. I'm Sunny. I'm the ministerial intern here at USNH. My pronouns are she and her. I call us to worship today with words from a mid-20th century Unitarian minister, Dr. Waldemar W. Argo. Ancient as the home is the temple. Ancient as the workbench is the altar. Ancient as the sword is the sacrificial fire. Ancient as the soldier is the priest. Older than written language is spoken prayer. Older than painting is the thought of a nameless one. Religion is the first and last, the universal language of the human heart. Differing words describe the outward appearance of things. Diverse symbols represent that which stands beyond and within. Yet every person's hunger is the same, and heart communicates with heart. Ever the vision leads on with many gods or with one, with a holy land washed by ocean waters, or a holy land within the heart. In temperament we differ, yet we are dedicated to one august destiny. Creeds divide us, but we share a common quest. Because we are human, we shall ever build our altars. Because each as a holy yearning, we offer everywhere our prayers and anthems. For an eternal verity abides beneath our diversities. We are children of one great love, united in our one eternal family. As we open this sacred space together today, may we honor that which stands beyond and within. May we rest in the Holy Land within the heart. And may we remember the eternal verity that abides beneath our diversities. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing our opening hymn, number 52, in your gray hymnal, In Sweet Fields of Autumn.
Today it's my great honor and privilege to welcome the newest members of the Unitarian Society of New Haven into this congregation. These new members have learned about Unitarian Universalism. They've pledged their gifts and time and money and have signed their names into the membership book. They have now become a part of this congregation's history, and we'll be inviting them forward to come up in just a moment. Clara Barton is, for me, an exemplar of what it means to be part of this unique faith. She was a Universalist, born in Oxford, Massachusetts, and she almost single-handedly revolutionized the care of soldiers in the Civil War and created the American Red Cross. And she did so almost uniquely against the advice and the precedent set by almost exclusively male doctors. She said, "It irritates me to be told how things have always been done. I cannot afford the luxury of a closed mind. I go for anything new that might improve the past." We are a liberal religious community, which has not only dared to preach freedom, but to live in freedom. And not only has prophesied a more just day to come, but has dared to prophetically live right now, today. And so I invite Bobby to continue the welcoming ceremony. Please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Bobby Pace. I'm your USNH president, and my pronouns are she, her. Whether we were born into this faith or chose it ourselves, Unitarian Universalism asks us to renew and recommit to that choice every time we gather. As UU writer Liz James notes, this religion is not a thing you join. It's a thing you're called to co-create. We're delighted that our new members and all of you have chosen us as your co-creators.
And as our membership grows, so does our potential for healing this world. So I invite Libby to come forward and to read the names of those who are being ushered into our midst and into this congregation today. And as well, any members of the Membership Connect team to come forward, please.
Good morning. My name is Libby Macklett Johnson. I'm our Connections Coordinator. My pronouns are she, her. At this time, I'd like to call Jennifer Kistner, Evelyn Newber, Allison Grieveson, Kevin Tosta, Malcolm Woad, Leslie Haber, and Beverly Love to the front.
Actually, Beverly isn't able to be with us today, so. Although she's got the right name. It is lovely to see you up here holding your flowers. And the congregation, if you don't need to stand, but if you will recite the words in your order of service as words of welcome. Please let us say together, we, the members of the Unitarian Society of New Haven, welcome you into this community, warmed by fellowship and freedom, respect and reverence, curiosity and consolation, learning and love, since founding 1951. We are grateful for each of you as you join this congregation as equal members. We accept and affirm you as you are, invite you into a journey of spiritual exploration taken in community. their conflict. When our visions align, and when we fall short, we will remember the promises we've made and return to each other in the spirit of love. May your presence here change us all for the better. And there are some words that we would love for you all to recite. Libby, if there's, Malcolm, I don't know whether you have words there. Yeah, thank you. And if you all can kick off together, one of you lead here.
As we members of the Unitarian Society of New Haven, we have crossed the threshold into a new relationship with this congregation, a deepened commitment, a broader openness, a brighter path of possibility. We pledge our gifts in support of the ministries of this congregation and ask for support as we find our way in this faith. In times of shared joy and in times of shared conflict, when our visions align and when we fall short, we will remember the promises we've made and return to each other in the spirit of love.
And in response to that, I can only think of applause.
At this time, any children that are present will join me up in the children's chapel at the end of our upstairs hallway. Let's sing along with words that are in your order of service. We sing together. Go now in peace, go now in peace, may the spirit of God surround you everywhere, you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace, may the spirit of love surround you everywhere you may go.
Covenant lies at the center of how Unitarian Universalists gather in community. We are united not by a particular set of beliefs, but by the promises we make about how we will be together, how we will treat each other, and how we will seek to mend relationships when we fall short of our aspirations. Each week we recite together a brief version of our covenant. I encourage you to read the full covenant on our website. While the following words express our intentions in writing, our true covenant lives and breathes in our actions. Please join me now in reciting these words for our covenant that appear in your order of service or in the chat in the lines on the live stream. We covenant together to create and nurture a culture of respect and kindness, and to engage in the spiritual and everyday practice of loving more generously. To this end, we will strive, be open, value differences, listen deeply, use kind language, speak our truths, work with conflict, seek humor and joy.
Our meditation today comes from philosopher, mystic, and civil rights leader Howard Thurman. It is excerpted from his 1953 book, Meditations of the Heart, which was a book that was actually published by Beacon Press. That's Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations publication. Our little lives are big problems. These we place upon thy altar. War and the threat of war has covered us with heavy shadows, making the days big with forebodings, the nights crowded and frenzied with dreams and restless churnings. We do not know how to do what we know to do. We do not know how to be what we know to be. Our little lives are big problems. These we place upon thy altar. Brood over our spirits, great mystery. Blow upon whatever dream thou hast for us, that there may glow once again upon our hearts the light from thy altar. Pour out upon us whatever our spirits need of shock, of lift, of release, that we might find strength for these days, courage and hope for tomorrow. In confidence we rest in sustaining grace, which makes possible triumph and defeat, gain and loss, and love and hate. We rejoice this day to say, our little lives, our big problems, these we place upon thy altar. Let us now take a few moments to rest in the silence, after which David will call us back with a musical interlude. And now a few moments of silence.
David. Thank you, Sunny. Well, I don't know about you, but this election is enervating. It's exhausting. It's profoundly depressing to hold back a tidal wave of cruelty. But one of the things that is so important about our faith is that, yes, it girds our loins, and yes, it helps us connect to one another in ways that might be positive. But it also keeps us attuned to beauty. I woke up kind of down today, and the sky is so blue. The temperature is so perfect, and the leaves are stunning, which is why I selected earlier in the week in this place in the service a poem by the wonderful Kentucky poet Wendell Berry entitled October 10th. Because there's strength in beauty, and there's energy in beauty, and there's reality in beauty. Barry writes, now constantly there is the sound, quieter than rain, of the leaves falling, of their loosening bright gold. The sycamore limbs bleach whiter. Now the only flowers are beeweed and aster, spray of their white and lavender over the brown leaves. And the calling of a crow sounds loud, a landmark, now that the life of summer falls, silent, and the nights grow. There is strength in beauty. There is a reminder of reality in every time we keep our eyes open, our ears full, and our hearts connected. And it is in that spirit that I invite forward Christopher and the choir to offer our anthem this morning. We come here for many things: comfort, friendship, inspiration, an enlargement of who we are. You are magnified by being part of each other, so that we can accomplish things that we just simply could not do on our own. And ultimately, I believe that we're here because we all intuitively know, deep down, that we're going to be faced with life challenges that we're going to need some help with, because they are daunting on their own. They're daunting anyway. I discovered sometimes I'm like the last person to realize what I'm doing. And I realized that really this sermon really continues directly on from last week's sermon, and then flows directly into Jesse's multi-gen service next week about the stones of New England and how we raise them up and make beautiful walls out of them. And I know it's not necessarily the sermon or even the readings, but it's often in the music, and especially the hymns, and especially those hymns that come out of the folk tradition, where we garner the most inspiration to find each other and to find what strength we need. We're going to end the service in a postlude of Amazing Grace. That's a song about acknowledging adversity in our lives and making recompense. Traditional hymns can strike many kinds of notes, but here in what we call folk music, I often find a darker and more realistic hue than we sometimes get. I'm not going to get into an argument about what is folk music. Louis Armstrong was once asked to define folk music, and he said, "Well, you don't see a horse singing it, do you?" Because folk music comes from people's needs and their wants and their longings and their aspirations and their dreams. What they're most concerned about, what they're most impassioned about, and what has broken their hearts. When we sing songs like "Over My Head I See Trouble in the Air," as we will sing after this sermon, that song comes from the spiritual tradition of what W. Du Bois called sorrow songs, but he could just as well have called them stamina songs, strength songs. But they were born in sorrow, they acknowledge sorrow, they encompass sorrow, and therefore we still sing them today, not lightly, because they are among the most powerful music that has ever been generated on these shores, because they came from people who kind of had no right to feel hope, and yet they made hope. They sang hope. They passed on to us, to their forebears. When Union singers did Step by Step, the Longest March, when the Quakers sang, "My life rolls on in endless songs," and yes, when the spiritual tradition said, "Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home, a long way from home." Sometimes ministers are concerned about time, and we're tempted to, maybe shave a verse or two. Once I did that, and I was told by a very wise person, don't take that verse out. When you're singing, "I've got peace like a river," don't take out the fourth verse that says, "I've got pain like an arrow." Don't take that out. Because that's what it's like, facing adversity. That's what pain feels like an arrow. So this isn't really a sermon about advice. I wish I had more wisdom to give you. But in my ministry, I have been taught very well by people that I have been loved by and people I have tried to serve. We know we cannot fool ourselves that adversity is going to come to each and every one of us. I'm not saying that to bum you out. It's just a baseline of reality. And I think if we come here for anything, we come here for truth. In any faith that tries to pretend otherwise, that somehow having this intimate relationship with God is some kind of joyride, or that the path of religion is some kind of upward path into perfectionism, well, those things are not real. And religion has got to be real, or it really is not worth your time. And so we come together, and the framework of our services are generally songs that lift us up and songs that are born in adversity. And they open themselves to what we all need, what we all seek, and what we all, if we dare, can open ourselves up to. And that is hope. When we sing bright morning stars are arising, where's that taking us to? Where are those stars above us? What are they beckoning us towards? And the answer is, the day is a-breaking in my soul. And sometimes that's hard to believe. And if it's hard to believe, then it's time to sing it. The historian Arnold Toynbee was interviewed in 1954, the year of my birth. He said, "Adversity and the things of this world opens the door of spiritual salvation." I think he's right. But just because you can say it doesn't mean it's easy or straightforward. It's not. And it might even be, weirdly, the least important thing about adversity. In Ecclesiastes, it talks about that gold is tried in the fire. You've probably heard the old expression, refiner's fire, being put into the fire so that what is dross melts away, burns away, and what is left is the unique, metallic core of who we are. That's refiner's fire. In the words of Isaiah, "I have refined you, but not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of adversity." And anybody who has their eyes open and hearts attuned knows that's right. I was very lucky when I was younger to be able to interview Harold Kushner. And he had written a book called When Bad Things Happen to Good People. A lot of people get that wrong. They call it Why Good Things Happen to People. But that's not the title of the book. It's When. Because adversity is simply going to come to each and every one of us. And as some of you know, he wrote about his son Aaron, who died at the age of 9 of that very strange disease that wastes a child away so that they grow ancient and old and withered. And his son asked him to someday write a book to share what it means to believe in a world of love and yet to live in a world of suffering. Kushner made his son the promise that he would do so. And then, of course, millions of people have read and treasured that book. And when I interviewed him, I said, the most touching part of the book was not all the advice you gave, but that little moment near the end when you said that you would have traded everything that you learned and everything that you've given others to have Aaron back. And he said, I'm glad you noticed that, because I would rather have Aaron back than all the wisdom of the world. Adversity doesn't necessarily make us better or worse. It does both. It can take us into either direction, but adversity surely reveals who we are. It does that. It is like, you've heard of a full body scan. Adversity is a full soul scan. And secondly, that adversity is an opportunity to gain a wider and more expansive view of life than simply good fortune or happiness could ever have done. And I think this is true. It's not like the old spiritual cliche, which I do not believe is true, that, you're never given struggles that your shoulders cannot bear, or that somehow you're given this struggle because, God wishes to grow your character. That's all nonsense. Those are spiritual cliches that are generally made to make the advice giver feel better, and not you. But it is true, thirdly, that part of a wider horizon that adversity gives us is an ability to understand, which we often can't see in good times, in times that we kind of feel in control. We get a wider horizon view of the ways in which we are part of each other. Now, you can say this all you want, but the reality is that there are very few times in our life when this really strikes home, hits home, where we really understand that we are bound up in each other in ways that are ultimately mysterious and inexplicable, and yet reality. And why is that? I think it's because when you and I have good fortune, when things are kind of going our way, we can always tell ourselves it's because we are special. We're smarter. We're more in control. But when you suffer, when you hurt, you know that what I've just said is a lie. You begin to understand in that wider horizon that we are bound up in each other. Adversity is not a wonderful opportunity in anything other than to know that we are all human and connected. Adversity can also take us in the other direction, 180 degrees. It can produce in us negative or defensive attitudes towards life and towards other people. It can certainly breed resentfulness and self-pity. I know that. My friend and mentor, and perhaps the greatest Unitarian minister I ever knew, Wallace Fisk, said, if our vocabulary did not have in it words like trouble, adversity, calamity, and grief, our vocabulary would also not have in it such words as bravery, fortitude, patience, and sacrifice. I think Wallace is right. I know Wallace is right. I've seen it in the people that I've had the privilege to serve, and I see it in you. And when adversity comes, it presents a challenge to figure out what to do and how to move and how to live. We cannot circumvent it. You cannot circle around it. You must move through it, and it will move through you. And it's not so much wisdom as it is getting to the truth of ourselves. One of the most amazing moments in American history for me was on the night that Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Robert Kennedy was campaigning in Indiana, and he was scheduled to speak in a park where hundreds of black people had gathered, And this was before the age of cell phones, and they did not know that King had died in Memphis. They did not know. So Robert Kennedy Jr. stood before them on the back of a truck and told them that news. You can see the clip on YouTube. But then he quoted from memory. From memory, he didn't have a piece of paper in his hands. Words from the Greek playwright Aeschylus. He said these words, "In our sleep, pain which cannot forget drops by drop upon the heart, until in our own despair and against our will comes wisdom through the awful grace of God." And I think he meant the word awful in both senses of the word. That which is terrible, and that which is also majestic and towering and induces awe. Because being caught up in a story that is larger than all of us and larger than any of us individually, being caught up in what is in fact eternity. And if we are caught up in that story against our will, and even in our own despair, we are still given an opportunity to know truth. And then we are given the opportunity to learn what it is to be bound up in each other's fortune, each other's skin, each other's heart. And I think that's greater than just wisdom or advice. I think that's what the old songs tell us over and over again. And when we sing them from a very deep place in our gut. It is the path of the truth of who we are. And if I could underline that sentence and carve it into your hearts and email it to your computers, I would. And that is ultimately that we are less alone than we realize. People that are strong in adversity are people that intuitively know that they are not alone. That there are resources of care and concern and love and questions and support. They are there. And they are more powerful and present than we often give credit to. Liz had this quote on our refrigerator for many months, long ago, and I read it, and it said it was from Nelson Mandela, and I didn't think it was true, but I double-checked it through the grace of Google. And he did say it. He said it in his inaugural address. After all those years of being imprisoned, these are the words he gave us, and that I leave with you today. Because if anyone ever did, he lived that adversity. And he went through it to reckon that we are one. Our deepest fear, he said, is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that sometimes most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, talented? Actually, who are you not to be? Because you are the children of God and you're playing a small role that does not yet serve the world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people do not feel small. Because we were born to make manifest this glory that is within us. It is not just within some of us, it is within everyone. And if we let our own light shine, we consciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. That's why I come here. so that in each other's presence, we feel this power and we live it. Amen. Well, I alluded to it in the sermon. Now we're going to sing it. Number 30, Over My Head. Over my head, I am music in the air. Over my head, I am music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I am singing in the air. Over my head, I am singing in the air. Over my head, I am singing in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I see trouble in the air. Over my head, I see trouble in the air. Over my head, I see trouble in the air. There must be a God somewhere. For my head, I feel gladness in the air. Over my head, I feel gladness in the air. Over my head, I feel gladness in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I see angels in the air. Over my head, I see angels in the air. Over my head, I see angels in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Let's hope those angels are registered. All right, everybody. We're going to extinguish the chalice. Rich, if you come forward. Let us recite the words in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now may peace, which passes all understanding, keep your hearts and minds in the knowledge of love, and may this peace be yours in the week to come. I invite you to remain seated, and we're going to, in a meditative, quiet way, sing Amazing Grace 205 as we conclude this service.